Welcome to the Wonder With Me podcast, where I, Dr. Tonia Winchester, invite you to get curious with me about all things mind-body healing, especially how we can unlock the incredible healing power of our unconscious minds, so that we can all get out of stress mode and go back into healing mode. We'll talk about how you can easily create healthy, sustainable self-care habits so that you can calm your mind, sleep deeply, wake rested, and enjoy happy, energized days. Ultimately, so that you can make a bigger difference in your well-being and that of your family and the world around you. These casual chats are for educational purposes only and don't constitute a therapeutic relationship. With all that said, let's get this episode underway. Come wonder with me. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Wonder With Me podcast. This is episode 33, How NLP Has Ruined Self-Development and Personal Growth for me and maybe for you too. I am your hostess, Dr. and/or Coach Tonia Winchester. I have been considering including an excerpt from my book, Through The Insomnia Cycle, on the podcast. The subtitle of the book is How to Sleep Deeply, Wake Rested, and Enjoy Happy, Energized Days. And even though it mentions all of those things, really the book is for anyone who is stuck in any kind of pattern that they don't like in their lives or in their health. Maybe patterns of behaviors that they don't want to be engaging in anymore, maybe symptoms and physical, mental, emotional concerns. Any of these things where anyone is stuck, the book is a helpful way to identify what's at the root of what's going on and give you strategies to help you move forward in your life. The excerpt that I want to include is from early on in the book, and it's where I illuminate, in my experience, both as a walker on this path and also a guide for others on their path, why some of the things that we do to improve our well-being on our own, why they can fall flat. And this excerpt comes from chapter 4. It's okay, honey. It's not your fault. Now, the thing with this little clip is that it's pretty short. And while I like to keep my episodes short so that they're perfect for your little commute, or if you're waiting in line somewhere, or if you're waiting for the kids to finish their soccer game or their ballet class or whatever, making them super manageable, digestible, this little clip is a little too short. So when I originally had this idea, I thought to myself, I need something more to make it a little bit more juicy. When we ask these types of questions, often the universe is going to give us a perfect solution and answer, and that definitely happened. With all of that being said, let's get into it and let's get wondering. I had this interesting experience that is going to offer a little bit more flesh to the excerpt from the book. They're related enough that it is going to work great to put them together. And so this is like you're getting 2 episodes in one. Aren't you a lucky ducky? So here's what happened recently. I was participating in this online transformation program, a group program led by 4 to 5 different experts in a specific field. I will say that going through this process with these other coaches and trainers, I am so blessed that I know the tools of NLP, both as a client, a walker on this path, like I mentioned before, and as a coach, a guide for others as they walk on their path. And while I love the tools of NLP, knowing them, quite frankly, has spoiled me for all personal development. All other self-help work just seems to fall flat for me personally. Things like talk therapy, mindfulness, even somatic work, they just don't seem to be as effective or efficient as the tools in the NLP toolkit. Again, this is just speaking from my own personal experience as a coach and a client. So in this training, the instructor encouraged us to identify our quote-unquote story, or limiting belief, as if there was just one, behind our problems. He then guided us through this 15-minute compassion meditation, where we would imagine ourselves at the time where the belief was formed. And while I partially like that idea, I personally found it really hard to focus. Now, here's what really got me. The instructor claimed that after doing this compassion meditation consistently for weeks or months, that we would notice a softening of our connection to this belief. Okay, so after however many hours that would add up to, let's say 3 months. Okay, so 15 minutes a day times 90 days is 1,350 minutes, equivalent to 22.5 hours. So almost one entire day spent softening the connection to the belief or the story. Why am I spending time emphasizing this? Because as an NLP coach, a mind-body healing coach, I can help someone identify and clear their root cause belief in 30 minutes or less. And when we do this clearing using something called timeline therapy, which in my experience thus far is the gentlest, safest, most effective way to dig out these root causes of our behaviors and our patterns in our lives. If somebody has something better that is faster, gentler, safer, less invasive, quicker, I'm all ears to hear it. I have not come across something so far, as I mentioned. Once we've done this clearing, often clients don't even remember what the limiting belief was that we cleared. This is tremendous. Our behaviors are a result of our physiology, which is a result of our thoughts and our feelings, which is based on what we're focused on. So if we can no longer focus consciously or unconsciously on the old limiting belief or decision, it's not going to drive our behaviors anymore. And if you listen to episode number 32 about breaking down the nanosecond of our neurology before we act, this is actually what we're doing. We're changing the underlying belief, which changes the focus, changes the thoughts, changes the feelings, changes the behavior. And then new results come as an effect of that. And yet here is this guru suggesting that we need to spend these months trying to cultivate compassion for our story and for those who are connected in creating that story. I frankly just am not that patient, especially when there's tools that can do this in, what would the percentage be? So 15 minutes, let's say, 1/90th of the time, effectively. And the cool thing is, because I meet with my clients for typically 2 hours, we get through so much clearing. We don't just clear one, we clear many connecting pieces to the central issue, whether they be old emotions that haven't been fully processed, or old traumas, or old significant events, these limiting decisions. We get through a lot in 2 hours, and we change the neurology so that the person's focus, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and results are. Especially what's different, like we talked about in episode 32, is that pattern, that pathway from trigger to behavior is different. So now an old trigger, say, I use the example of seeing a man in a red hat, that old trigger now leads to a new behavior. And maybe that new behavior is just taking a deep breath and turning around and walking in the other direction. Or maybe that other behavior is speaking up when you used to shut down. These change when we release these old limiting decisions, and it doesn't have to take months, it can take minutes. So everything that I've just shared with my experience in this program, as well as my experience with the tools of NLP, it's all a really in-depth introduction to this passage from the book, Break Through the Insomnia Cycle. And in some way, you already have the punchline. Just keep listening. I'm going to go through where some of these things that we really are nobly trying to do to take care of ourselves just may not be getting the results and the benefit that we're actually looking for. Because I really want you to know that there's faster options out there. I want you to know that there's simpler, kinder, gentler options out there. And the final thing I'll say before I move on to this passage is that we're invested in our limiting decisions and our limiting beliefs. Unconsciously, of course. We're not waking up every day deciding, today's the day that I'm going to think I'm not valuable enough to take care of myself. No, these are things that are happening outside of our awareness. I'm just inviting you to consider the costs of holding on to these things, holding on to these limiting decisions, holding on to these limiting beliefs. So what's the cost to you financially, emotionally, physically, energetically, in your relationships? Okay, let's move on to the passage from the book, chapter 4, from Break Through the Insomnia Cycle. You've tried all the things. I know you're no dummy. It's not like you don't want to change, and it's not like you haven't tried to feel better. It may even seem like you've tried everything, does it not? All the things. If you're like me and most of my clients, then you've probably tried these 5 common strategies and may be frustrated as to why they don't seem to be working for you in the long term. Wonder no more. Onwards. Self-help. You watch Oprah's Super Soul Sunday religiously, right? You've got the latest Deepak Chopra, Gabby Bernstein, or Brene Brown queued up on your Kindle or Audible. You watch TED Talks, TEDx Talks, and you've been to weekend seminars. Maybe even jumped up and down to loud thumping music in a conference hall full of strangers and walked on fire. You tend to double tap on memes about self-love, self-care, and trauma responses from the holistic psychologist, sharing them in your stories or DMing them to your friends. You're a self-help junkie, and I get that. Part of you wants to be fiercely independent and do it yourself. I also respect that there may be other reasons why you don't want to see a professional. Maybe you don't want to put your stuff on others or burden them. Maybe you don't want to be vulnerable or relive your past or seem weak or be judged. Often it's more painful to think about getting help than it is to stay in the pain of the burnout cycle. So you try to DIY it. One reason that's a miss when it comes to resolving your anxiety or burnout is that the desire to be different is happening at the level of the conscious mind, and all change, learning, healing, and habits happen at the level of the unconscious mind. I want that sentence to sink in, so I'm going to read it again. All change, learning, healing, and habits happen at the level of the unconscious mind. What most people don't realize is that it's nearly impossible to be both in the conscious and the unconscious mind at the same time due to something we'll talk about later called the critical faculty. Another reason why self-help doesn't seem to give you a lot of traction is that your unconscious mind is designed to keep things from you on purpose, typically as a protective mechanism, so it's easy to miss your own blind spots. Your unconscious mind has repressed or filtered these memories for a reason, and so it is unlikely to release the charge on those old stories just because you consciously want to change something in your life. Since all change happens at the level of the unconscious mind, breaking through the burnout cycle won't happen by reading or listening it away. Consuming more content isn't what you need. You don't need more information. Remember my weight gain story? I knew what to do to get my body to release the weight, but I wouldn't or couldn't do it. You wouldn't consider learning to ride a bike from a book, would you? No. And when you learned to walk, it wasn't because you studied walking in your cardboard picture books, did you? No, of course not. So why then, when it comes to breaking out of your burnout cycle, do you keep doing more research just to get more information? Or attend weekend seminars to give you a temporary high? I know you're here reading this book because what you've been doing isn't working and you're looking for new solutions. What if you don't need more information, but instead need a transformation? Now I'm talking about how your brain is wired for these uncomfortable and distressing patterns such as stress, anxiety, restless or absent sleep patterns, and daytime fatigue. In a word, how your brain is wired for burnout. The way out of that is not learning more about the biochemistry of what is missing or present in too high quantities. If you had a PhD in digestion and knew all the ins and outs of each digestive enzyme, how they are made and released, and how they broke down your food into molecules, would you be able to start or stop your digestion at will? No. Information isn't the solution. The solution, aka the way out, is working with the unconscious mind, the deep part of you that is running the show under the surface all the time, keeping you stuck on autopilot, reacting in the same way to the same triggers over and over again. The good news is that our minds are plastic. They can be changed, and with the right guidance, you can transform your internal circuitry so that you're instead wired for happiness, consciousness, peace, and ease. Do you want to keep scouring the internet for the reductionist solution to your problem, or do you want to just overcome your problem? Sure, some people force personal growth and self-development with sheer will and determination, and rest assured there is a much easier way. The way out is by reprogramming how your unconscious mind filters your world. For now, know that self-help is always going to be the hardest, longest route to get to where you want to go. So there you have it, a short section from Chapter 4 of Break Through the Insomnia Cycle that hopefully has shown you that some of the things that you may be trying to do is sort of like trying to roll a big boulder up a mountain. And I also hope you know that there's easier ways. And if you are someone who's looking for help, looking for an easier way, looking for a gentle, safe, effective way to shift these old belief systems, and not just shift, but eliminate, transform completely, then I'm happy to help. A great place to start is with my book, and you can get that at toniawinchester.com. If you have any questions, head to that website. There is a chat bot at the bottom of the box, and that goes directly into our inbox, and my team will happily respond to you. If you have questions about becoming a client, awesome, you can do that there as well. I hope this episode was helpful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for wondering with me today, for getting curious about how we can leverage the power of our unconscious minds to go back into healing mode. I'm so grateful that you're here, and may you choose to make all of your dreams come true. Hey, thanks for wondering with me today. If you've got something good out of this, then please forward this episode along to the people who you know could benefit. Be sure to subscribe, and if you're really keen, you leaving us a rating and review helps us to help more people, so thank you in advance for that. If you're wanting more insights about how you can leverage the power of your unconscious mind to go back into healing mode, head on over to toniawinchester.com, where you'll find my book, Break Through the Insomnia Cycle, and other helpful ideas. Thanks again, and we'll connect on the next episode of the Wonder With Me podcast. In the meantime, may you choose to make all of your dreams come true.